Welcome to SEGUCATED. Welcome to SEGUCATED in another episode. We are so excited to have a very special guest today, Adrian Herrera, the owner of A1-Films. We are so excited to have him with us today. Actually, Adrian and I go way back, all the way back to like Ross Elementary and Highland Park High School in Topeka. And I'm just so excited to have him on the show to drop some nuggets for you guys. He has been grinding it out with his independent film company, A1-Films. I'm going to let him kind of talk about his company and give you guys a description of really what is A1-Films. What do you guys do? Give us your elevator pitch.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. I was very excited when you asked to do this because I love doing stuff like this. So I appreciate it. And we got the Highland Park connection. But so A1-Films is a full service video production company. I started it when I'm talking, 13, 14. I named my first video like an A1 production because A1 is my nickname. And so when I went to college for a video and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went and got my master's degree after a college basketball playing career. And when I did a documentary on Highland Park, my old high school, and the basketball team, it won a national award. And that's when I realized, okay, this is what I'm best at. This is what I need to pursue as a career. And so I didn't do A1-Films yet. I didn't do A1 Productions full-time yet. I got into filmmaking as a filmmaker full-time, working for companies. And it wasn't until almost about a year and a half ago, I rebranded. Instead of A1 Productions, I started my full-time production company, A1-Films. I left my corporate job. And so we're a full-service video production company. I'm the owner, and I'm also a freelance cinematographer. And so there's two ways that I do business. It's direct to client, and that's to A1-Films. When I hire a crew, I'm the director, I'm the cinematographer, I'm the editor, and then I hire a crew to help shoot and anything else for the production. And that's when I do the full-service video production company. But then there are times where I just freelance as a cinematographer. Like, for example, me and we've worked, and you hire me just as a shooter. I come, I light, I help you fulfill your vision as a director and a producer, and then I hand off the footage to you, and you do your thing with it. And so,
but y'all, he's being modest. He is way more than a shooter. I mean, you have to check out his YouTube because he gives some really cool tips and information, and the way he presents it is in such a way that people can really, I think, digest that information and it makes sense. But he has a whole video about the lighting setup he did on the last shoot that we did at the end of last year. And it was so impressive. And just to be able to sit back and watch him work as an artist, and setting up the lighting and just everything, it's really awesome to just be able to see that. And so Adrian is being modest. He is much more than that. He's like a for real artist. And so
I do believe that like cinematography is an art form, and storytelling is an art form, obviously. And so as with A1-Films, I do a lot of short films as well, like for passion projects when I'm not doing work for clients. And then as a cinematographer, and that's the storytelling part. And as a cinematographer, I try to tell the story with lighting and with shadows and try to elevate the story for the clients. When I don't have any kind of I don't have any input on the actual story, I can help tell the story better through lighting as a freelance cinematographer. And I love it. I do feel like I'm an artist as a cinematographer because I'm painting pictures, with frames. So.
Yeah, that's dope. So you guys can definitely tell that Adrian is passionate about what he's doing. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you definitely have to be passionate about it.
Right.
And
so, yeah. Or you're not going to be an entrepreneur.
Right, because it ain't easy. And,
Yep.
it's interesting, we're talking today in April, in the middle of April, and 2020 has been an interesting year so far.
Right.
And we've got, COVID-19 going on, and it's affecting the whole world. It's a worldwide pandemic that's going on right now. And so we'll get into some of that as well. But one of the first questions I want to ask you, Adrian, is you kind of talked a little bit about how you left your corporate job to
Yep.
pursue this business full time. Can you tell us just what it was that moment of faith over fear that made you take that jump or leap to become a full-time entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, a vivid point in my life where it became real faith, over fear to pursue full time. So my story is kind of unique. I was working right out of college. I worked for a small agency, really niche agency, and that's where I really grinded my teeth and kind of excelled quickly and learned more about like the techniques and things and about lighting and cameras. And then my next job, I wanted to get on bigger production, so I worked for a global company here in Kansas City. And I'm not going to say the name, but multiple campuses, thousands of people work for this company, and so that was my opportunity to work on bigger productions, so I could get kind of a multifaceted experience, because I knew the next step in my career was to build my own video production company. I just knew I had kind of decided that in my heart like 2 years prior to even taking that job, but I was just kind of waiting. Kind of scared. I'm not kind of scared. I was scared because I have a family. I have a wife to provide for, and I've never seen anybody, start their own video production company, or I don't have a lot of entrepreneurs in my family. And so when I was at that company, I realized that it just wasn't really a good fit. And it wasn't that company wasn't a good fit necessarily. It was working for somebody, and working in a corporate structure just was not me. I had realized that I had an entrepreneurial mindset, and I was trying to like use that in this corporate environment, and it just was not working. And so we had a ton of creative differences, I would say. And, when I would change something up or try something new, I would get in trouble for it. And I'm just like, why? Like, it shouldn't be like this in filmmaking. Filmmaking is experimental. It's pragmatic, where you have to solve problems on the go. And every time I would try to do something, I would get in trouble. So I ended up getting fired about a year and a couple months into that job. And
Wow.
yeah, but the crazy thing is that a month before that, I was sitting at my desk, and I was just thinking like, man, I was actually praying. There would be moments where I just kind of lean in when people, I just think I'm chilling.
Sometimes you got
but I'm
to.
just praying. And I'm praying and I had been praying before, but this particular day I was just praying like, Lord, I'm not happy in this job. I know I'm not happy. I'm not content, and I'm not giving my all to it. Like, is there any way you can get me out of this situation? I'm not ready to start my own business. I don't think I have enough savings, but tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. And it was probably like, a month later to where I got let go. And that was my answered prayer. I didn't know it at the time, but I went home. Obviously I was devastated. I felt like I let my family down. I mean, it was, I've never been fired before. So it was a humbling experience, but me and my wife, we talked about it, we prayed about it. And I just gave myself a day, just kind of lick my wounds, and cry with my wife, and just like, I knew it was coming because it just signs like a week before, I had a meeting scheduled. It was just weird. It was really weird. And so the next day, I told my wife like if this opportunity right here, I would never get a chance like this again. I had severance pay. We were actually saving up to buy a car. We had like $6,000 in the bank. And then my wife's business had just picked up. She runs a daycare. And so we had all these things like kind of line up perfectly for this moment. And I said, if I don't take this moment to start my business, I will never start my business. And that was in 2018, about August, October. And, I heard something recently which like sums up exactly how I felt. Somebody said, when they pursued, their dream, this is my exact same sentiment. Like, I can live with failure, but I can't live with not trying. I cannot live with not knowing if I was ever going to succeed. And so that's how it was for me. It's like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to give it a year or so. If I fail, I fail. At least I tried, and I have no regrets. But if I don't at least try, I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life. And so when I made that decision, I was like, okay, this isn't 50-50. I'm all in. I went all in, and it was like that next. I think I got fired on Thursday. That next Sunday, Monday, I was waking up at 4:30 every single day, starting to build my website, building my logo, sending it off to the graphic designer, created like a creative brief, and just doing everything for like the next 2 or 3 months to build a company. And I think it was maybe from that day, 2 weeks later, I launched. I had my website done, I had my logo done, and I was like all in. And I said, because it was sink or swim. It was like, I can either go for a job, and it's going to take about a month or two to kind of get this, and I'm going to be struggling for money, or I can get on the ground running right now and make things happen. And so that's what I decided to do. And that was the moment right there. It was like, okay, this is it, Lord. I didn't have the courage enough to quit. You kind of shoved me out the door, and I'm going to run with it. And almost 2 years later, I'm here. It's like we're not homeless. Bills are paid. Even in a pandemic,
Right.
God is providing. So
Yeah.
I'm just blessed and grateful. So that's kind of my story. It's kind of long, but crazy.
No, that's dope. And thank you for being transparent, because, some people don't want to share all of the ups and downs,
Right.
especially the downs part,
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, they want to portray, this life of, everything is successful and everything is great and everything is good all the time.
Right.
When really, in actuality, that's not an accurate, depiction of entrepreneurship.
Right,
Everybody,
yeah.
has had failures, and that's just awesome the way that you're able to tell that story, because it connects with people.
Yeah, and I was, at first I was like, well, I don't know if I should share this story, like a year ago, because I'm like, well, what if I don't make it? I got fired, and then I failed at my business. But then I was like, either way, it's still a unique story of like, at least I'm trying, I still have levels to get to that I want to get to and grow in my company and as a freelancer, as a cinematographer. But it's like, man, God has provided, and I'm grateful. And if this is all He has for me, I'm grateful. I get to spend time with my family more. I work from home, and I couldn't ask for more. Like every day is just like to go from the complete opposite side of the corporate world to now freelancing. I've seen both sides, and so I can appreciate a lot more. And I'm grateful. Like every single day, I get to work for myself.
Yeah, I know. It definitely, as an entrepreneur, I feel that my faith, you know what I mean, is so much stronger, just because
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When people think that having a job is like a guaranteed paycheck, but that's not true, because you could just get fired, right?
Exactly. Or a pandemic can happen, like you never know.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And when you're an entrepreneur, like nobody's going to fire you unless you fire yourself.
Right.
And if a client, I guess, fires you, well, then you just go out and get more, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I learned that the hard way. There's, job security is not really job security. I feel a lot more safe now than I did, even though I knew what I was making every week. Even though I don't know, how much I'm going to make, next 3 months. But it's like, I feel a lot safer now because I know I can grind and go get it, if I have to, or even do an odd job, or, something totally different, or, there's so much more opportunity out there. So, sure.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So, like, one of the things that I thought was cool that you mentioned is just, you were talking about your wife and how when you came home, after, that happened with the job, and you guys just cried and you prayed and all of that. So one of the things that we like to talk about on the podcast, and just interviewing several entrepreneurs, is that relationship, whether you're married or just, your relationship with your partner, and your family and having children and all of that, and how that kind of can affect, your business. And if you don't have that support, it's very hard to make it as an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? In a marriage, because marriage is not easy, by itself. And then you add entrepreneurship to it, that ain't easy. You add parenting to it, that's not easy.
Right, exactly.
And all of these different things, need your attention. And of course,
you have 4 kids under 4 years old. That's not easy.
See, I'm about half of that, but I still know what you mean. So tell me, like, just how you and your wife have been able to make this work, because your wife's also a business owner, because you
Right.
guys have the daycare and then you also have your company. So tell me how you guys have been able to make it work with marriage, love, family, and the business.
Yeah, I think like even our story, our marriage story is like just crazy. You know, I met her when I was in high school. I tell people all the time I met her on MySpace. Like it's like I date myself on
Stop.
that. Yeah, I messaged her on MySpace, you know, and we became friends through MySpace. And then we started dating a little bit later. So I was 16, she was 15, and so we have a long journey to where God has redeemed us. You know, from high school to college and to getting married. I mean, we probably shouldn't have made it. If it wasn't for our faith, we wouldn't have made it, because we came to know the Lord in college, like, you know, after living, you know, such, you know, crazy times in high school and college. Like God like said, okay, you know, I'm going to take hold of your life now. And then we had to rebuild a lot of our relationship, not even our marriage, but a lot of our relationship. And so I felt like God has really prepared us even for this, because without a strong relationship or strong marriage, and even our communication, I mean, I can tell her anything and everything and be direct with her, and her the same way as me. It's really helped with how even my anxiety of starting a business, or even when I'm in the thick of it. And even financially, I mean, like she gave me $500 from her daycare as seed money, basically, to build my website, get a logo, and start, you know. And she supported me, I mean, from every aspect imaginable. And I would not even have probably tried to pursue full-time filmmaking without her. And that's not even a cliche. That's like the truth. And there was times where, you know, my first year in business, I started, and then I got a couple jobs, and then I didn't really realize the winter months are like just the worst for filmmaking, because of the weather and people are out on vacation and things like that. And so it was like, you know, December, January, I didn't book anything, and it was in the slow even in November. And I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna make it. I told her, I was like, I had just purchased a camera. I was like, I have to sell my camera. Like I don't have nothing else to do. Like I'm really, really considering it. And she believed in me more than I believed in myself. She just laughed it off. Like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? You're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like it's going to pick up. And sooner enough, like I made a decision, like, you know what? There was a verse in Matthew, I believe it's 23:32, like on down. Basically, the verse where it talks about, you know, God even provides for the birds of the air, and they neither sow nor reap, but God still provides for them. Are you more valuable than they? Aren't you more valuable than they?
Yes.
And so don't be anxious. Don't worry about what you're going to eat, what your clothes you're going to wear, because God, you know, seek first the kingdom of God. And so it was right around that same time, like I read that verse, and I was really contemplating, like almost giving up, you know, 6 months in. And my wife, you know, gave me a kick in the pants. I read that verse, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to trust God for our finances, and I'm not going to worry no more. And during that summer, you know, I started making moves too. I started my YouTube. I started hopping on people's film sets for free just to build connections, putting myself out there a little bit more, and really getting over the fear of man. And that's when my business started to pick up. Like summer just hit, and I just started booking a ton of shoots. And but if it wasn't for my wife to kind of push me, you know, I wouldn't have made it past that, and then known like the cycle of kind of filmmaking. You know, like the summer months are really busy, the winter months are slow, because you never know. If you quit, you'll never know. You know what I mean? You will never know. You know
what's on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I was really ready to quit. I'm like, well, I can sell my camera, get a few $1,000, and we can pay for rent. You know, but she was like, no, we'll make it. We'll make it. God has always provided. And so she's always been there for me, and that's how. I mean, you know, she's, you know, me and her, we've made it together. So what I said in the beginning is that God's prepped our marriage, like on the relationship of having like a healthy foundation through a lot of trials and tribulations and a lot of sin and a lot of just things that almost broke us, but he rebuilt us. And so then financially, we both had to trust in him and depend on him. And so I feel like in sections, he has prepared us for like, you know, this. And I don't even know what's for the future. Was it for our kids? Is it so they can be entrepreneurs? Who knows? But we're building a foundation, you know, and on multiple levels to kind of together, you know, to kind of pass down to our kids and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Long answer, you know, but
No, that is all good. It's real. It is real.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
my husband, you know, he's the one that had, you know, pretty much pushed me and encouraged me to start both businesses. My very first business, a jewelry business that we started, and then this
Mm-hmm.
business now. You know, he's the one that did that. And you know, honestly, without him encouraging me and that
Right.
support, I wouldn't have started it. Especially when you have a family, because it's
Mm-hmm. Right.
hard
Yeah.
to, you know what I mean? Especially too, you know, we came from the same place
Right.
and the same street, and it's like,
Literally.
yeah, literally the same street. And it's like, just trying to, you know, look at your parents and how they had, you know, their job, you know, and my parents, they really instilled in me like education is the only thing that, you know, no one can take away from you. So get that education. And so then after that, it was like, well, get a good job so that you can retire, you know, from that good job.
Right.
And there's so much more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we don't, and it's like you don't see that. If you don't see it, you don't know. And so that's why what you're doing, you know, as you curate your journey and as you're curating other people's journeys, it's like, you know, you show other women, you show people from where we're from that there are other things out there, you know, possible. There are other options because, you know, I didn't see anybody when I was younger. You know, I didn't see anybody that knew God. I didn't see anybody that was an entrepreneur unless they was drug dealers, to be honest with you, you know, and so we kind of pursue them. Their ceiling is what we see. And so that's why I'm very passionate even about sharing my journey on social media through my YouTube, Instagram, whatever, because I want, you know, the next, you know, young filmmaker from Topeka, from even the inner city to know that, okay, that's an option. That's possible. You know, if he can do it, I can do it. So it's important, you know?
Yeah, it's totally. So that leads me, you know, to our next question is, what does it mean to you to be a minority business owner?
Yeah, I mean, even like you, multi-ethnic, you know, I'm Mexican, I'm Black, and I'm Native, and just a melting pot of cultures in my household. I grew up mostly with my Black family, my mom's side. My cousins, even my school, inner city, like it was it was Mexican and it was Black.
And Black, right?
Yeah. And I was on like the Black side because I didn't speak Spanish, you know. And so that's kind of the culture that I grew up, and I take a lot of pride, even like almost because of my children. You know, my children, I want to teach my children the same way that my mother instilled in us. You know, she took us to powwows, Native American. She made sure that we knew our Native heritage, and my father made sure that, you know, we were proud Mexicans. You know, and so as a, you know, minority entrepreneur, especially in my field, there's not a ton of us. Even in the film industry, just in general, the history of cinema started with racism. Like the first blockbuster was The Birth of a Nation, which was a KKK propaganda film, and they even showed that at film school, you know, which is crazy. And so even being a minority cinematographer, video production owner, I take pride with that. I'm even conscious about the crews that I hire, you know, the people that I help, you know, as assistants and grips and PAs and things like that. My crew, I want my crew to be diverse. And because I want to even give opportunities to people, you know, like myself that normally wouldn't get those opportunities. And so it's something that I'm very conscious about. Even in my Black ancestry, I'm very conscious about the history of America. You know, I've made sure I, you know, studied and read books on just how we got here and how we can get, you know, progress moving forward. And so it's something that I take great pride in. It's something that even people that the last shoot that I was on, it was for a corporate company, and we were doing actually a set of videos for their mission for diversity. And they even noticed, so like, you know, they said, I love how diverse your crew is. Like, I've never seen a film crew that this diverse. And I said, thank you. You know, this is something that I'm very conscious about. and it's very important to me. And so I think, like we were just saying, if we're visible, then other people like us, where we came from, similar situations, can know that it's possible. And so that's why that's the whole reason why even I started YouTube, because I wanted younger people to come from the place where I'm come from, and people like me to see, someone who is pursuing this avenue that there's not a lot of people like me in, so yeah, it's something that's very important and something I'm very conscious about.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Just we're in Kansas,
Right, yeah.
However, A1-Films, they travel all over the world, all over the country.
Right. Just got back from California before the pandemic.
Yes. I saw your, I think it was your Instagram story, and that looked pretty luxurious.
It was top notch. I filmed Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. They were members of this country club. Yeah, so it was like the elite of the elite on the West Coast country club. It was really like plush. It was nice.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Right.
So, headquarters here in Kansas, but definitely traveling all over. That's awesome. And I'm so glad that you're here on this podcast. So
yeah, and that's why we relate so well, and that's why I'm glad even when I first went full time, you reached out to me and you said, hey, I'm looking for people, to work with, not only with that has a skill, but also is diverse. And so I appreciate you even reaching out to me, extending that to me, and that's encouraged me, along the way. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that the spirit of collaboration, is so important when it comes to entrepreneurship. I know that, it sounds cliche, but you're better together. I think that that's definitely a theme, for entrepreneurship, and to be able to partner with people, and especially being able to partner with you where, it's another minority owned business and we can come together and work together, versus, not working together.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adrian, can you tell us just kind of, what do you feel is the importance of collaboration when it comes to being a creative and an entrepreneur?
Well, for me, as a freelance cinematographer, which is the lane that there's A1-Films, there's direct to client work, and then as a freelance cinematographer, it's almost as its own industry. It's almost its own lane. And so as a cinematographer, I have to collaborate with directors, with producers, with agencies in order to get any business. And at the same time, these producers and directors, they're looking for talented cinematographers who they work well with, and who can, not only do the job, execute it, correctly, but also come into an environment and be well-spoken, or come into an environment and be able to adapt to any situation. And so that's, for me, I think I've benefited greatly from working with different companies and being in so many different situations, and filming and interviewing so many different types of people, millionaires to healthcare workers to, in my documentary, young students, and just having a variety of situations. I bring that to an agency, or I bring that to a director, or I bring that to a producer, to where they can trust me. And the way I see business, I have like a biblical principle of how I do everything. But with my business, I want to love and serve people. Like, that is like my number one thing. I know that I can, light up a room and make it look pretty, but I want the experience to be one that's like, you can't get nowhere else, or like you leave and it's a friendship, it's a relationship. It's not, I show up and do a service with you. So collaboration for me is just like loving and serving people. And the most of the time, my clients, I'm doing videos for their clients. And so I have to, so it's another level of, I have to make sure that I come correct. And not only in executing the lighting and the framing and the setups, but making sure that I don't embarrass them, in front of their clients in any way. And so it's a big trust, but at the same time, it's I built a lot of relationships. I mean, way more relationships than I have before I started full-time freelancing.
Right.
And so it's really relationship based. My business is it's I've worked with somebody. I've worked with a director. I met him for breakfast, and we just hit it off. And without even seeing my work, he was like, you know what? I have 2 shoots next week. Are you available? And so he hired me right there on the spot for 2 shoots for like the MLB network and for the NFL network without even seeing any of my work. And it's because, we related and we were personable and we were friends. We hit it off just like that. And so, and there are some people who kind of take a different approach, who might be a little standoffish or might think that they're above things, but that's just not going to work. It may work. I mean, maybe at certain levels, but it's not going to work. Not in my industry for a long time, because word travels. If you're not fun to be around, or if you're not a good person to be around on set, you're probably not going to get hired, for that company in the future. And
well, I can attest to that because we've had some long shoots.
Right. Yeah. It's so personable. Like, shoot, sometimes I'll spend, 2-3 days with people, and it's like you have to be able to trust people and relate to, or like get along with them and know how to just kind of be in different environments. It's very relational. My business is.
Yeah. I mean, and trust, and I mean, it kind of frames the idea of you are your brand, in a whole, new light, because even for us, we know when we work with A1, like, we know we're going to get top-notch quality, and I tell my clients that, before we even bring you on, and after the experience is over, and I'm not just saying that because, we work together, but just seriously, like, we did a shoot, I guess it was towards the end of last year, where Stedman Graham was, speaking here in Manhattan, Kansas, out of all places, Oprah's Stedman. And, that was a long shoot, the whole day, basically. And, everyone, every time we work with you, our clients are always saying, we really like that Adrian. Like, he knows his stuff, he is top notch, he's professional. And they haven't even seen anything. I mean, this is just literally right after the shoot. They haven't seen anything yet. So, I think that really speaks to your professionalism. And it also speaks to the experiences that you got to have before you became an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I think that sometimes people want to just jump, straight into it. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but you do sometimes, those experiences that you got in the corporate world working for other people, you can apply that, to your business, definitely. So,
I can remember I had my first job was at Sheridan's Frozen Custard in Topeka on 29th.
Oh, yeah.
My coach, Coach Byersfield, my assistant coach at high school, hooked me up with the job. He owned it. And so first time I applied, I actually didn't get it. So I'm like, what happened? Like, the manager didn't like me. So I applied like that next summer and I actually got the job. Different manager. He was cool. But I remember talking to his wife. His wife is her name is Gay. And so Gay brought me to the office. She said, she asked me a question, and I was like, yeah. And she was like, she corrected me. She was like, in a business environment, you say yes, you don't say yeah. And I was like, yes, ma'am. And that just stuck with me. You know what I mean? And somebody might take that offensive. You know what I mean? I was 16, 17 at the time. But, those little experiences helped me understand, like, there is a different environment where you have to relate in a different way, and that helped me in getting my first job out of college in the corporate world, knowing that, like, I come from Highland Park, and I might have a grammar that I speak with my friends, but that doesn't mean that I have a master's degree. That doesn't mean that I'm the stereotypical what you might see on TV or something, like, very professional. And I had and like you said, taking those experiences, even from that very first experience, having people kind of like show me the way in a small way, has helped me as an entrepreneur. And even when I was at those jobs and we were, we would bring in speakers, I would like take notes, because I knew that I was going to use that someday with my own business,
Oh, yeah.
And so it just all my experiences have really prepared me, almost fast-tracked me to the time I am now, to where I can run my own operation and be comfortable, in so many different situations. So,
and it's a God thing too. You just have to look back and be like, wow, God, you know what I mean? Like at the time, a lot of times when you're in it, you don't understand why you're moving from this job to this job. And you know what I mean? Why, things are going the way that they're going. But then when you're able to reflect back, it's like, okay, I see why that happened that way. Cause I needed these, building blocks in order to get to where I'm at now. So.
Oh yeah. And that is something that, that's like an advice that I give people that even aren't Christians or, it's just, it's the truth and my journey, especially stepping into this entrepreneurship, not knowing the future, not knowing how it's going to play out, and still not knowing how the next months are going to play out. There's a scripture that I even, my wife and I kind of helped memorize with my daughter and with my son. And it's, I forget where it's at, but it's trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways. He will make straight your paths. If we just acknowledge God in our journey, like he's gonna, he already knows what's gonna happen. He's gonna make the path for us. We just have to acknowledge him for it. And so that's how I've kind of maneuvered, this entrepreneurship journey is placing my faith in God. And when there's times that's uncertain, I go back to the Lord and I acknowledge him. And even decisions that I make, I'm like, okay, I pray for it first because I want to acknowledge him first, and he's going to make that path straight. You know what I mean? So it is a very much, I say that when I speak to, I went to a high school and spoke in front of some kids a couple months ago, and that's what I told them, if my faith is very, very much kind of in the mix of everything that I do, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so without it, I can't separate the two. I can't give you an answer and you separate my faith. No, it's like I'm led by my faith.
And that's one of the things too that I enjoy about entrepreneurship is, previously, my first career straight out of college was journalism. And so being a journalist and the type of reporter that I was, news reporter, you really have to separate, you know what I mean? Because of ethics, you have to be able to separate, politics and religion and all of this from what you're doing as a reporter. And one of the things I love in entrepreneurship is I can, express my faith. And you know what? And let it be what it is. This is me. Take me for who I am. You know what I'm saying? And that has just been very freeing, for me too.
Yeah, I can't separate the two, to be honest with you, because I would not be genuine myself, and then I would be lying, because it is a testimony. I have to give glory to God, because without that, I would not be telling the truth. And that's the only way that I know how I've gotten here, year and a half later, still here, so.
Yeah. That is amazing. And so one of the other questions that I had was just, what was a moment in your business where you felt you were pursuing your passion or calling, that moment where you're just like, yeah, God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I think there's one kind of when I look back, and then there's a second one where I'm like, it was kind of like, yes, kind of like definitive. So when I look back, I think that it was when I was waking up when I first started my business and decided, okay, this is it, I'm going all in. I was waking up gladly at 4:30 in the morning and going to sleep at 11:30 after working, all day. And I was happy again to work. I was happy again to wake up and do what I love to do, which is create, which is doing my own thing without anybody telling me what to do. And that's when I knew, I'm like, this feels right. This doesn't feel wrong. This feels right. And when before I was dreading going to work, which sucks, which nobody, I mean, there are probably people listening to this that may be dreading going to work right now.
Yeah.
But, even in that, I had to learn how to be content. How do I be content, but still ambitious? How do I be content with God where he has me right now? But I knew that when I started pursuing, when I went full time, even when I wasn't even making no money, I was just kind of building the thing. It was like, this feels so good, and I'm so happy. And God answered that prayer. He doesn't have to, but he did. I was, a month ago, I was literally dreading, what am I to do? I know I'm not supposed to be here. And then later on, like, I'm like, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so that was kind of, it was like night and day, you know. It's like, okay, if this doesn't work out, man, I was just like, man, I hope this works out, because I love this. I love working for myself, and I love putting in the work. I love grinding. And then another part was probably like last summer, I got my first like big check from a big job, my biggest job, you know, to date, at that time. And I just checked the mail. I got like the deposit, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I wanted to frame it, you know, and it just felt good. And like, you know, I'm providing for my family, you know, and there are people that value my work enough to pay me, you know, well. And so that was another time where I'm like, you know, the next 2 months, I don't have to worry about going and finding a job. Like,
yeah.
You know, so kind of those little moments like that make me realize, like, this is it. You know, I'm grateful, you know, like, I'm not trying to be next Steven Spielberg, even though that would be great. You know, I'm glad to where I am. You know, I'm glad. I'm content. So.
Hey, you just getting started, brother.
I know. Yeah, I feel the same way. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So I thought it was interesting you're talking about value. And I think that is something too that maybe, and maybe I might be wrong, but I do feel like as minorities, sometimes, especially not seeing this entrepreneur lifestyle and not, you know what I mean, being around, you know, negotiations happening and stuff. I think about my son and my oldest son, and he hears conversations that we have in the house. I mean, we're having business conversations about contracts and negotiation and, you know, whether to walk away from something. And those are not the type of conversations I heard in my house. Although, you know, definitely my parents taught me about hard work. I definitely learned work ethic from my parents, but I wasn't hearing that kind of, you know, business talk in the household. And so for us, sometimes just being able to run a business and understand our value and our worth can sometimes be a challenge. You know, and that doesn't even have anything to do with race. It's also with economics, you know, with socioeconomic status. So can you kind of tell us how you were able to kind of, you know, tackle that challenge as an entrepreneur of just being able to know your worth, put it out there, and, you know, be able to gain clients that value it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of two things for me. I mean, it's a lot of things, but the first time when I realized that I'm more valuable than I'm getting paid for was when I was nearing like the end of my first full-time job. Like, I was happy to get, you know, $40,000 gross, you know, and right out of college. So happy. And then, you know, about a year and a half later, I seen we were outsourcing, you know, the bigger videos to a freelancer, to a separate independent production company. And they were making like, you know, I think it was like 12 grand for one video. And I'm like, hold up, I'm you know, I'm popping out like 3 videos a month for like, you know, $3,000 a month or whatever it was. And this dude's getting paid 12. So that's when it was like, that's like when I talk about not knowing, you know, and not seeing what could be. I saw what could be. I'm like, okay, I can do maybe better, or it's just as good as work as this individual. You know, no knock. I really appreciate other people's work. But I'm like, I started thinking about my value, and I started thinking, like, if I cut out the middleman, which is this company, I could be that outsourced person. You know, that when there are special projects, you come and hire me. And so that was my first started kind of the ticking in my brain. And then there was a situation in my job where like I just felt kind of taken advantage of. My time was, you know, taken advantage of. I had like stayed like, you know, through 2-3 nights, you know, till midnight.
Yeah, you get on that salary.
Yeah, you know, and I just like, this is not cool, you know? And so taking that into, you know, entrepreneurship, knowing like, it was like when that happened, like my mind had forever changed. It's like, okay, this is no longer just like, I'm just happy to be here. It's like, no, I am an employee and I'm doing a service for a job. And am I being valued at that? And I even went to the boss and I got a raise because I'm like, look, this is what I brought to the company. I've elevated, you know, the whole video production, you know, the way we do things. I've changed it. I want that to reflect in my paycheck. And I asked him, you know, I was like studying Dave Ramsey. How do you ask for a raise? How do you, praying about it. And they gave me a good raise, but it still wasn't, I was like, you know what? It's still not enough, And I realized like, it's not going to be enough until I start my own thing. But that was like the beginning of it. And then, fast forward to entrepreneurship, I took on like a few kind of just small jobs just to kind of, get my feet wet and just to get some work, $300 here. I think I took a $150 job to like edit like an animation or whatever. And then I just remembered that like, hold up, my time is way more valuable than this, like I need to set rates. I need to set a standard. And so it was almost like going through bad experiences and then coming out on the other side of like, oh, hold up, like let's reassess this. And then, getting feedback from clients, getting feedback from people who are checking out my website, checking out my work. And a lot of my branding kind of speaks for itself. And it shows the value that I can bring, just not even talking to me or even assessing my prices. It's like good branding for me has done that. It's like elevated me to a position to where like I have leverage, because if you come, and you're pursuing my services, just right off the bat, just from seeing the work that it's going to cost. And so I, not that I overprice, but I do, I've said no to a lot of smaller jobs, now that I've understood where my value is. And it's kind of, you have to kind of go through it. You have to kind of realize like, I had a friend I'm kind of mentoring, and I'm telling him like, bro, you need to up your prices like at least $1,500. He'll take on a longer project for like $500, or he used to, and just telling him like, but I was like, okay, do it. You'll see how you feel in like the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then he'll realize like the same way I realized, like I spent a ton of time on this. This is I lost money doing this, and so it just kind of experience, kind of going through it. And just kind of even assessing your market. What are other people charging? What are other cinematographers charging for their day rates, for their editing rates? And so online communities does help with that, kind of assessing my rates and things like that with other filmmakers and cinematographers. So it's kind of trial and error. You get burned a couple times and you realize, okay, if you're smart enough, I need to change, and I need to like truly value my work. And I tell people this, even when I send a proposal, you like, let me know if we'll be a good fit. If even before the proposal, like I may, I would love to get more details about the project to see if I'm a good fit for you and you're a good fit for me. Because sometimes it's just not a good fit, and that's okay.
Yeah, before you waste any time, because time is money,
that
right?
is totally okay. Exactly, that is totally okay if you're not a good fit for each other. And that's something that I had to learn, and that's just something that I think I learned just through experience of kind of being in it, of like learning, like, what, that project. Unless it's like a really cool project that's going to add kind of value to me, like I get to light it cool. We'll put all the production towards the lighting, the cameras, and it's going to look good on my reel. Something like that. I'll take it for really cheap. You know what I mean? But it has to be strategic.
The boss, and you get to make those decisions. And sometimes, even like you were saying, passion projects and things like that.
Right.
You get to decide how you're going to do that.
Exactly.
And so I just had a couple more questions for you, Adrian. So one of the things, that we work together on is, we're a social media marketing company. So we help our, clients look good on social media, build their social media presence. And I will say that the clients that we've been able to work together with, the visuals that you've been able to produce, that we're able to use, in different ways on social media has been tremendous for their business. Matter of fact, with Open Minds, the video that we did together for them, and that you DP'd that project, they actually had a couple in New York City that was moving to the Kansas City area, and they were searching for childcare, facilities in the area, and they ran across their Facebook page, and they ran across that video, and they decided to enroll their kids based off of seeing that video.
Wow,
they had all the information they needed, and it showed everything, and it really captured the essence of who they are. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And so can you just like tell, maybe business owners, aspiring business owners who are listening today, just kind of what is the importance of, quality video when it comes to, selling your brand?
Yeah, I I think it's twofold. I think some people think like video as in like just the quality of what it looks like, you know, professional. But I think even the way I see A1 Films and the way that even with how you conduct your business, it's more than just anybody can like take a nice photo or even like just kind of shoot proper video. But the connection is through the story. And so if you can have both like excellent, you know, visual, you know, quality, you know, mixed with the storytelling, with that connective tissue that kind of brings us all together as human beings, that's when you're starting to connect with your audience or the people that you're not even, it's like a soft sell, not even trying to sell to, but the people that you're trying to connect with. And so that's what video does. And when it's done well, it moves people. You know, it moves people to action. It moves people to cry. It moves people to do whatever, you know, it's caused to do. But great video marketing does that. And even when, you know, I had a friend who kind of explained it like this, even with pricing, it's like, well, you know, it's like buying a home. You know, you can spend, you know, a certain amount of money and you can get, you know, a smaller home, you know, that's within your budget. But if you want to open the budget and like live in a nice house, yeah, it's going to cost that much. Like, and that's what video production is. It's like, you know, you might, you know, go with a video production company that can bring you a nice home. It's going to be smaller. It's going to be a little bit, but if you really want to, you know, kind of take it to the next level, you are going to have to kind of, you know, pay for a premium, or if not, like, yeah, it's an investment. Invest. That's a great word. And so that's what video does for people. And that's like, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, that's what I love. I mean, I absolutely love like just blowing people's minds with like when I provide a video that showcases who they are, because that's what I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to showcase who you are and what your brand does, and because that's what that storytelling aspect, that's what connects people to your brand. And so that's what great video marketing does for people. And that's my favorite thing to do, is to like kind of hear their reaction to something that I've created or something that I've shot or something, you know, because even when I'm doing cinematography, and you know this because when we collaborate, I, you know, even though you're the director and the producer, you'll ask me, is there anything that, you know, any questions that you might think? And then you know, there's something that I'm like, you know what? Yeah, there is. Like, how did you know? And I'll even add my little kind of to pull out just a little bit more of that human side that will drive that video to the next level. You know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And that, again, the spirit of collaboration. You know what I'm saying? Because some people, you know, they can't step off of their you know, assigned role. You know what I mean? To be able to, you know, allow feedback from other people, because it makes the whole project better, you know, when you have more minds coming together.
Yeah, and there's so, and like even nowadays, there's so many people that have like great cameras and the equipment, because it's getting more accessible. But there's not a lot of people that are like driving that storytelling aspect, and it's a skill. And there's not a lot of people that can tell that story, and that's where I feel, honestly, I feel, not to kind of sell my brand or whatever, I honestly feel like I wanted to start my own business and you know, my A1 Films company. I want to separate myself by telling great stories, because it's not a lot of people telling great stories. There's a lot of people giving great visuals. A lot of people can do that, but there's not a lot of people that can tell a story authentically and it be genuine. And that's what I try to do. That's my main mission, is to tell genuine stories. And at the same time, I want it to look like a Steven Spielberg movie. You know, I want it to look great, you know. That's just like an added bonus. But that storytelling is that connection that really drives, you know, a marketing piece.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you 100%. So kind of our last like wrap up, and we always ask people, you know, that we've had on the podcast, because we know that we have aspiring entrepreneurs listening to it. We've gotten messages from people who have listened to the podcast and just stumbled across it and have literally said, you know, they were in a spot where they were trying to decide, you know, what is their real purpose? They felt like the job they're in is like a dead end job, and what are they really supposed to be doing? And being able to listen to the stories of other entrepreneurs who are out here doing it,
is really inspiring and empowering to people. And so right now we're in a situation with COVID-19. You know, we don't really know, you know, when the end of this is going to be. And just being realistic, I mean, we're really surrendering, you know, all of the control. And us believers, you know, is really surrendering, you know, to God and what his plan is, because we don't know, you know, things keep changing. You know, our stay-at-home orders for the state of Kansas just got extended, you know, a couple more weeks, and who knows what's going to happen within the next few weeks. So kind of what is your advice as far as, you know, aspiring entrepreneurs who are thinking about it, and with it being kind of a scary time to some people to be in business? Like, what is your advice for people right now? And like, how are you weathering this storm right now as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's like, it's crazy for me that it's like, you know, even that question is like, there's a pre-pandemic question and then there's a post-pandemic question, you know, and it's like that we live in this world that we have to, like, you know, answer that question. It's like post-apocalyptic, pre-apocalyptic, you know, like a movie. But pre-apocalyptic, I would say, you know, anyone starting a business, like, the things that I've learned is like humility. I mean, I think you can take that into every aspect of any business. Is not being afraid of what people think, not being afraid of what people think on social media, not being afraid of taking that chance and taking that risk, because you might fail. A prideful person will not take those risks if they're not, you know, if there's a high chance of failure, because they don't want to look bad. And I've learned a lot of humility of just like putting almost forcefully, you know, it's like, okay, I can either like be scared to try to do this thing, or I can feed my family if it works out. Like, which one do you want? You know, so it's like leaning on my faith and trust in God, and really being humble and thinking of others first. That's what true humility is thinking of other people first. It's putting yourself in the back and putting the interests of others first. And so humility, I think, would be that number one kind of, you know, not a strategic thing, not a, you know, oh, do this, you know, first and then you start your business. It's like a self thing, because when you start a business, it's very personal. You learn a lot about yourself. And those, one of the things, being humble and not being afraid of what other people think, is going to help people put yourself out there, reach out to clients, potential clients, reach out to people that you want to collaborate with, reach out to people that you want to ask questions, you know, in your industry. I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned in my journey, and I continue to learn. And when when there are times where I'm anxious about put myself out there or trying something new, it's like, okay, I just remember what, you know, how it worked out for me, you know, hopping on somebody's film set for free and meeting new people, and where I am now from literally posting YouTube videos and building new relationships or something, you know. So that's a big thing. And so that's what I would say to any aspiring entrepreneur, is like, just assess where you're at, and if you got to eat some humble pie, like you're going to, like, you're either going to be forced into it, or you can like do it the easy way and just kind of from the jump, like, okay, I know I'm going to fail here and there, but, you know, I'm going to grow. And so sometimes the only way you can grow in that is actually doing it, is making that leap and actually doing it. And then I would say even now, the way that I'm weathering, like, honestly, I'm not doing anything different, because like everything that I had planned is postponed. Everything that I was doing has like come to a halt, a screeching halt. And what I've done is just making sure that I'm communicating with my clients that I have shoots with, you know, whenever the economy opens up, just even reaching out to friends that I've made, former clients that I did work with. I'm like, hey, is everything? I got, you know, some friends and some clients in New York, and I reached out to them like, hey, you know, I know New York is getting hit bad right now. How are you guys doing? Just checking up on you. Not even anything about business, just kind of on a relationship aspect. Mm-hmm. And so making sure that I'm kind of communicating with the clients that I do have videos kind of that are now postponed, and also kind of curating just a little bit. Honestly, I've been uninspired, to be honest with you. Like this whole, I mean, what has it been, like a month and a half or something? I've been like, as a creative, I've really been uninspired, just because there's so much that's going on. People are suffering. people's families are suffering. And so it's hard for me. I don't want to be insensitive. You know what I mean? I don't want to be, the world's going crazy and then, yeah, hey, look at my Facebook post or something. You know what I mean? Like, unless I'm adding value to somebody's life or unless I'm encouraging. So I've kind of slowed down just on that, just because we're just in times that we've never been in, and just to be kind of sensitive to the situation.
Yeah.
But I was telling Mark the other day, like, we've gone through like this, like, obviously you go through anxiety. I have 4 children to provide for, a wife. Her business is still going, and we're being really safe with that, with the parents and with kids. So there's been a lot of anxious times, but again, I go back on my faith. I've kind of built a stronger relationship with God, like through this, where there was a dry season. Like now I'm like, okay, Lord, you've always provided for us, and it's not going to stop now, no matter what. You knew this was going to happen. Just this year, the start of this year, I was having the best year that I've ever had. Like the month of January, February, and March was going to be crazy. Like literally the best kind of 2-month span that I was going to have. And then this happened. Bam, stopped everything. And I look back, I'm like, okay, well, that happened because God knew that, our finances was going to come to a halt. So, that's why I had the best start of my year, that I've had so far. And so really we're just kind of like everybody else, I'm kind of content with, I want to wait this thing out because I don't want to, I don't want my family to get sick or endanger anybody else. And so I'm kind of just I'm kind of content with, like, my summer's probably, done as far as filming goes. I do plan on doing some passion projects, kind of like just quarantine, like my wife, myself, just to kind of creatively have an outlet and kind of keep my kind of face out there. But I also plan to use this time to ramp up some more YouTube stuff to curate and help people, tips and tricks on filmmaking and even on life stuff. So I'm going to start that next week, actually. I kind of took a month to just sit in it,
Right.
and be patient. And so now I'm kind of motivated. And this is kind of like the start of like motivating me to, like, okay, next week I got to like get to work and come up with some ideas and curate and kind of, because this is kind of like the new normal now, that we had to kind of sit through it and see what it was going to happen. This is kind of the new normal. So we have to try to get back to business,
Yeah, for sure. Well, Adrian, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on our podcast, SEGUCATED. I think definitely for our listeners, it is a treat to be able to hear from you. And is there anything else that you want to add?
Not really. I think we talked about a lot. So
yeah,
I appreciate you having me on. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and I just hope that, if one person is encouraged by my story or the things that we talked about, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know they will. I know you inspire me. So thank you again
Likewise.
For sure. Thank you again for being on the show, and until next time.
All right.